Welcome to another audit walkthrough video from SuperfastCPA. I'm Logan, and in today's video, we're going to be going over Audit Area 2. This is section C4. This is a remembering and understanding topic. Understand the differences between SOC 1 and SOC 2 engagements. And we're going to be doing that the SuperfastCPA way, which is diving straight into the questions to learn the material. Now, if you don't know much about our strategies, make sure you go to SuperfastCPA.com and sign up for our free 1-hour webinar training. We will teach you the key ingredients to passing the CPA exam. And again, it's 1 hour. It's free, and we will save you so much time with just that 1 hour. So make sure you check out that webinar. Also, just letting you know, we will only be going over 5 questions in today's video, but SuperfastCPA Pro members will get access to the full 10-question version of the video when we post it in the members forum. So if you like this and you like our other products, make sure you check out becoming a SuperfastCPA Pro member because you will get access to the full versions of these videos so you can get a little bit more practice and a little bit more understanding. Now with all that, let's dive straight into the questions. All right, here we are at question 1, and something I always like to point out when it's available is you want to read the last part of the question first whenever you can, because that last sentence in the question is what's going to a lot of times inform you what the question is about. It's going to give you context. So let's do it right here and imagine you were on test day. Which type of engagement is most appropriate for Pine Financial Services to undergo to address Oakwood Manufacturing's concerns? So again, imagine you were on test day. You read that and you immediately start thinking, okay, I know I need to be thinking about what kind of engagement I'm looking for. So you are reading through this and thinking about what engagement fits the circumstance the best. And again, that gives you context so that you can read the rest of the question and know what you're dealing with. And this is a very good strategy for test day. Let's go up to the top. Pine Financial Services is a third-party payroll provider that processes payroll transactions for multiple client companies. One of its largest clients, Oakwood Manufacturing, is concerned about the accuracy and completeness of payroll calculations and wants assurance that Pine Financial Services has effective internal controls in place over financial reporting. Oakwood Manufacturing is considering requesting a service auditor's report. Okay, so again, based on all that information, which type of engagement is most appropriate for Pine Financial Services to undergo? Now, this is the first question. We might not really know very much, but you can infer based on what we're talking about in this video, probably what the correct answer is. Now, if you don't understand that, or if you don't know what we're talking about in this video, SOC 1 and SOC 2 engagements, that's okay. We are using these questions to learn what they are. So if you want, go ahead and pause the video to think through this, but if not, let's go ahead and dive into the answer to start learning. Okay, here we are at the answer, a SOC 1 engagement. Now, that probably wasn't too difficult just based on what we're talking about in this video, but now let's read through the explanation to understand what a SOC 1 engagement is. A SOC 1 engagement is designed to provide assurance over the internal controls at a service organization that impact a user entity's financial reporting. In this scenario, Pine Financial Services processes payroll transactions which directly affect Oakwood Manufacturing's financial statements. A SOC 1 report would help Oakwood Manufacturing's auditors assess the reliability of financial data generated by Pine. Okay, so just to make sure that's clear, a SOC 1 engagement helps to assess the reliability of financial data generated by a service organization. A service organization is a third-party company that performs services or business processes on behalf of other entities, often referred to as user organizations. Because these services can affect the user organization's operations, data, or financial reporting, service organizations' internal controls may be examined to provide assurance to their clients and their clients' auditors. So again, just to make sure that's clear, I talked about the financial services and everything. This has to do with the internal controls that affect that. So again, a SOC 1 engagement is meant to show that the internal controls for a service organization are good when it comes to reporting financial data and things like that. Now let's talk about the other options. A financial statement audit, and that was option B, focuses on an entity's own financial statements rather than the internal controls of a service provider. An agreed upon procedures engagement, and that was option C, is limited in scope to specific procedures requested by the client and does not provide a full assessment of internal controls. A compliance audit, and that was option D, evaluates adherence to laws and regulations rather than internal controls over financial reporting. So that's the general idea behind a SOC 1 engagement. It has to do with the service organization's internal controls over financial reporting, and it's like a report on that. Now let's go to the next question to learn about something new. Okay, here we are at question 2. And again, remember, we're reading the last part of the question first. Which type of engagement is most appropriate for Nova Cloud Solutions to undergo to address Summit Financial Group's concerns? Let's go up to the top. Nova Cloud Solutions is a cloud storage provider that hosts sensitive business data for its clients. A potential customer, Summit Financial Group, is concerned about Nova Cloud's ability to protect its data from unauthorized access and service disruptions. Before entering into a contract, Summit Financial Group requests a service auditor's report that evaluates Nova Cloud's controls over security, availability, and confidentiality. So again, what type of engagement are we talking about now? We talked about SOC 1 engagements in the first question. Now, what are we talking about in this question? If you don't know, that's okay. We're going to use the explanation to start learning about it. But if you have an idea, maybe pause the video and think through this. And when you're ready, come back. We'll look at the answer together. Okay, here we are. The answer is B, SOC 2 engagement. You could probably have guessed that, but let's learn what a SOC 2 engagement is. A SOC 2 engagement provides assurance over a service organization's controls related to security, availability, processing integrity, confidentiality, and privacy, collectively known as the Trust Services Criteria. So just to make sure that's clear one more time. A SOC 2 engagement is about assurance for the controls that have to do with the Trust Services Criteria, which is what we just went over, security, availability, and those things. In this case, Nova Cloud Solutions provides cloud storage services, and Summit Financial Group wants assurance that Nova Cloud has effective controls to protect sensitive business data. A SOC 2 report would evaluate these controls and provide valuable information to Summit before entering into a contract. A SOC 1 engagement, and we just talked about this in the first question, was option A, focuses on controls relevant to financial reporting, which is not the concern in this scenario. A financial statement audit, we talked about that. It was option C, assesses a company's financial statements rather than its internal controls. And a compliance audit, again, is the same thing. It has to do with laws and regulations. So just to make it clear, SOC 2 is different than SOC 1 because SOC 2 is dealing with controls that are related to the Trust Services Criteria, whereas SOC 1 is dealing with the controls related to financial reporting. Now let's go to the next question. Okay, here we are at question 3. Which type of SOC report should BrightTech obtain? Okay, let's go to the top. BrightTech Solutions, a cloud service provider, has recently implemented new security and availability controls to protect client data. A prospective client, Orion Enterprises, requests assurance that BrightTech has designed these controls effectively as of a specific date. To meet this request, BrightTech engages a service auditor to evaluate the design of its controls, but not their operating effectiveness over a period of time. So again, which type of SOC report should BrightTech obtain? Now, we haven't talked about Type 1 or Type 2 yet, but as you can see, there's SOC 1, Type 1, and Type 2, and there's SOC 2, Type 1, and Type 2. We haven't really talked about the differences between those yet. So based on what you understand about SOC 1 and SOC 2, you could probably narrow it down to be a SOC 1 or a SOC 2 engagement. But if you don't know what a Type 1 or a Type 2 SOC engagement is, that's okay. That's what this question is for. We're going to start learning about it when we go to the explanation. Okay, the answer is C. A SOC 2 Type 1 engagement is what we would want to do in this case. So let's walk through why we would want to do a SOC 2 Type 1. A Type 1 SOC report, whether SOC 1 or SOC 2, evaluates whether a service organization's controls are suitably designed to meet specific objectives as of a specific point in time. In this case, BrightTech Solutions needs assurance about the design of its controls related to security and availability, making a SOC 2 Type 1 report the appropriate choice. So we're kind of building off of what we learned in the first questions. SOC 2 is about the internal controls that have to do with the Trust Services Criteria, so things like security and availability. And then we learned here that a Type 1 engagement, whether it's for SOC 1 or SOC 2, is to assess the design and implementation of controls, but does not test the effectiveness of controls. So whether it's for SOC 1 or SOC 2, Type 1 is the same between those two, but they are different engagements themselves. Now that we learned what a Type 1 report is, let's go ahead and go to the next question. Okay, here we are at question 4. Which type of SOC report should Blue Sky obtain? Let's go up to the top. Blue Sky Data Solutions provides cloud-based data storage and processing services for its clients. A long-term client, Orion Analytics, wants assurance that Blue Sky's security and availability controls are not only properly designed, but also operating effectively over time. To meet this request, Blue Sky engages a service auditor to evaluate both the design and operating effectiveness of its controls over a 6-month period. So again, what type of report are we going to obtain? Now, we've learned, again, about SOC 1 and SOC 2, and we've learned about Type 1, so you can probably guess we're learning about Type 2. So combine everything that you've learned so far and pick the correct answer, and if you need to, pause the video to do that, and when you're ready, come back, we'll look at the answer together. Okay, here we are at the answer D, SOC 2 Type 2. So that's the kind of engagement we're talking about here. A Type 2 SOC report, whether SOC 1 or SOC 2, evaluates both the design and operating effectiveness of a service organization's controls over a period of time rather than just at a specific date. Since Blue Sky Data Solutions provides cloud-based services and Orion Analytics is requesting assurance over security and availability controls, a SOC 2 Type 2 report is appropriate. So again, just to make sure that's clear, Type 2 not only covers what is covered in Type 1, so design and implementation, but a Type 2 engagement or report also covers the effectiveness of those controls over a period of time. So we've learned everything we need to know so far. A SOC 1 report is about internal controls that have to do with financial reporting. SOC 2 is about internal controls that have to do with the Trust Services Criteria. and SOC 1 and SOC 2 both have type 1 and type 2, and type 1 and type 2 are the same between them, just, with their respective controls. Type 1 is about the design and implementation of the controls for said SOC engagement, and type 2 is for the design, implementation, and the operating effectiveness of those controls, again, for said SOC engagement, whether it's SOC 1 or SOC 2. So again, we've learned a ton so far. Let's read through the rest of the explanation. A SOC 1 type 1, that would be option A, would assess financial reporting controls but only at a single point in time. A SOC 1 type 2, that was option B, would assess financial reporting controls over time, but this scenario is focusing on security and availability, not financial reporting. A SOC 2 type 1, and that was option C, would assess security and availability controls but only their design at a specific date, not their operating effectiveness over time. So I hope that's making sense. We've learned a lot about SOC 1 and SOC 2, and then type 1 and type 2. Now let's go to the next question. Okay, here we are at question 5. Let's go straight to the bottom. Which type of SOC report should Global Pay obtain? Okay, let's go up to the top. Global Pay Services is a third-party payment processor that handles electronic transactions for various e-commerce businesses. A new client, Horizon Retail, wants assurance that Global Pay has effective internal controls over transaction processing and financial reporting to ensure accuracy in its own financial statements. The client is also interested in knowing whether these controls have been tested for operating effectiveness over time rather than just at a single point in time. So again, what type of SOC report should they obtain? We've gone over everything you need to know so far, so I think you should pretty easily be able to pick out the correct option. Pause the video if you need to, think through these options, and when you're ready, come back, we'll look at the right answer. Okay, the answer is B, SOC 1 type 2. And again, we've learned everything we need to know about SOC 1 and SOC 2 and type 1 and type 2, so you should have been able to get this. This scenario requires a SOC 1 engagement because Global Pay's controls impact financial reporting, specifically transaction processing accuracy, which directly affects Horizon Retail's financial statements. So again, because it has to do with financial reporting, this is a SOC 1 engagement. Additionally, since the client wants assurance that these controls have been tested for operating effectiveness over time and not just the design, a type 2 report is required. SOC 1 type 1, and that was option A, would have been incorrect because a type 1 only reports on the design and implementation of the controls, not the effectiveness, and SOC 2 type 1 and SOC 2 type 2 was incorrect because a SOC 2 engagement is not what we want to be doing here, because SOC 2 has to do with the trust services criteria, again, like availability, security, processing integrity, confidentiality. So anything that has to do with a SOC 2 was incorrect in this situation. So we've learned, again, what a SOC 1 engagement is, what a SOC 2 engagement is, and that there's two types of each of those engagements. Now, before we do anything else, let's do one more part of the SuperfastCPA process called pillar topics. Now, the idea behind pillar topics is as you're going through the questions to learn the material, you will notice the things that keep popping up. You've seen 2, 3, 4 questions trying to teach you what a SOC 1 engagement is, or what a SOC 1 type 1 engagement is, or whatever the case is. And you notice these, again, in the questions you're doing, so you write them out as pillar topics in your own words so that you know what is most important for test day based on the questions that you did. And as you're doing this each day, you're building your own personal repository of the most important things you need to know for the exam in your own words. Now let's go ahead and look at the pillar topics for this video. Okay, here we are at the pillar topics. Let's just dive straight in. I feel like this is pretty straightforward now that we've gone over it, so this is just a reminder. SOC 1 engagements. SOC 1 reports focus on a service organization's internal controls relevant to financial reporting. These reports help user entities and their auditors assess whether a service provider's controls affect the accuracy and reliability of their financial statements. And remember, a service organization is basically an organization that is providing a service for a user organization. So, maybe they process their payroll or things like that. SOC 2 engagements, on the other hand, SOC 2 reports assess a service organization's controls related to security, availability, processing integrity, confidentiality, and privacy. And remember, those are the trust services criteria. These reports are typically used by businesses that provide cloud, IT, or data management services to demonstrate their commitment to protecting sensitive information. Now let's talk about type 1 versus type 2 reports. A type 1 SOC report evaluates whether controls are suitably designed at a specific point in time, while a type 2 SOC report assesses both the design and operating effectiveness of controls over a period of time. Type 1 provides a snapshot of control design, whereas type 2 demonstrates how well those controls function over time. And remember, there's type 1 for both a SOC 1 and SOC 2 engagement, and there's type 2 for both a SOC 1 and SOC 2 engagement. Now, we've learned the big differences between SOC 1 and SOC 2, and that is the end of this video. Now, before you go, make sure you go to SuperfastCPA.com and sign up for our free 1-hour webinar training. You will save yourself so much trouble if you just go watch that 1-hour webinar because, again, we will teach you the key ingredients. So make sure you check that out, and after you check that out, make sure you also check out becoming a SuperfastCPA Pro member. SuperfastCPA Pro members, as a reminder, get access to the full 10-question versions of these 5-question videos. So if you like this, if you become a pro member, you'll get access to more questions so you can get a little bit more understanding and a little bit more help. So make sure you check out the webinar. Make sure you check out becoming a pro member. With all that said, I hope you liked the video. If you did like it, make sure to like it and leave a comment. I hope this was helpful, and I will see you in the next video.